I'm very much an outcome focused individual. Do you know what I mean? Like, I watched video after video, read article after article, and I experienced thoughts of checking out because I'm thinking I'm never going to be able to get free of this. Like, I'm reading articles online about how it's a brain disease, and I was tweaking. Yeah, even if I go for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I I realize I could very well fall back into it. Do you know what I mean? I'm seeing videos of celebrities that have battled addiction and they're not here anymore. Like that. They've checked out. Okay, okay. Welcome back. Pel Cullen, welcome to my channel. So today I've titled this video Cali Coke Corn Henny Breaking Free from Addiction. Okay. Like, I was supposed to record this video last week, but I've been ill, so this is the week, innit? Okay, so first I want to talk about what addiction is. Yeah, so a very well mind defines addiction as a complex chronic brain condition influenced by genes and the environment that is characterized by substance use or compulsive actions that continue despite harmful consequences. Now, I watched an interview with Gabor Mate, I believe his name is, I hope I've pronounced it right, in which he talked about addiction resulting from an attempt to resolve some sort of emotional pain that started in childhood. And the addiction is not the primary problem, it's an attempt to solve a problem. Like, he defines addiction as any behavior that a person enjoys, finds relief in, and therefore craves in the short term, but suffers negative consequences in the long term, but doesn't give up despite those negative consequences. He also says that trauma is not what happens to you, it is what happens inside of you. Okay, so like, you get disconnected from your emotions and your body, and you have difficulty being in the present moment. Yeah. Now, my theory is that because the traumatic experience that you went through during childhood happened at a time in which you were not capable of handling those emotions, you find other mechanisms to cope in it. Yeah. Negative coping mechanisms. Okay. It is also said that addiction is a state of compulsion, obsession, or preoccupation that enslaves a person's will and desire. While repression stifles desire, addiction attaches desire, bonds, and enslaves the energy of desire to certain specific behaviors, things, or people. These objects of attachment then become preoccupations and obsessions. The word attachment has long been used by spiritual traditions to describe this process. Okay, it comes from the old French word attacher, meaning nailed to. Attachment nails our desire to specific objects and creates addiction. We succumb because the energy of our desires becomes attached, in other words, nailed to specific behaviors, objects, or people. Attachment is a process that enslaves desire and creates the state of addiction. Okay. Now, the great spiritual traditions of the world have been talking about attention for, God knows how long, for millennia. Okay. And the core tenets of Buddhism, for instance, are the Four Noble Truths. 1, suffering is a fact of life. 2, suffering is caused by attachment. 3, liberation from suffering and the reinstitution of human freedom can happen only through detachment. And 4, human effort toward detachment must involve all aspects of one's life in a deeply spiritual way. So detachment is a word used in spiritual traditions to describe freedom of desire. It's not freedom from desire, but freedom of desire. Yeah, there's a difference. Okay. Now, signs of addiction. Okay, there's 5 essential characteristics that mark true addiction: tolerance, withdrawal symptoms, self-deception, loss of willpower, and distortion of attention. Okay, so with tolerance, tolerance is always wanting or needing more of the addictive behavior or the object of attachment in order to feel satisfied. What one has or does is never quite enough. Yeah, typically, however, tolerance is not something that one is aware of. It happens insidiously. Okay. 2, withdrawal symptoms. There's 2 types of withdrawal symptoms, that are experienced when an addictive behavior is curtailed, okay, or when you try to stop. The first is a stress reaction. So when the body is deprived of something it has become accustomed to, it responds with danger signals as if something is wrong. This response is mediated by the autonomic part of the nervous system. It is not directly controllable by the conscious mind. Okay. Stress reactions may range from mild uneasiness and irritability to, extreme agitation with rapid pulse tremors or even overwhelming anxiety. Now, the second type of withdrawal symptom is a rebound or backlash reaction. Yeah. In essence, a person experiences symptoms that are the exact opposite of those caused by the addictive behavior itself. Okay. So backlashes occur because the body's balancing mechanisms have become dependent on a particular substance or pattern of behavior. So when that particular factor is suddenly removed, the balance swings in the opposite direction. Yeah. Thus, withdrawal from alcohol and other sedatives can produce hyperactivity and even seizures. While withdrawal from stimulants can result in fatigue and depression. Yeah. Now, in terms of self-deception, one of the most significant hallmarks of addiction is the inventiveness that the mind can demonstrate in order to perpetuate addictive behaviors. Yeah. Here the will fights against itself in, a morass of mixed motivations and contradictory desires. The creative power of the brain is used unconsciously to subvert each and every attempt to control the addictive behavior. These tricks of the mind include things like, denial, rationalization, displacement, and every other defensive mechanism. Yeah. Loss of willpower. As soon as one tries to control any truly addictive behavior by making autonomous, intentional resolutions, one begins to defeat oneself. Yeah. For the most part, defeat is due to these mixed motivations. One part of the will sincerely wants to be free, another part wants to continue the addictive behavior. In any true addiction, the second part is stronger, and so the resolutions ultimately fail. Like, the more you make these resolutions and fail, the addiction becomes stronger because it's just racking up wins, like that. The fifth one, distortion of attention. We have many addictions we don't even know about. Yeah, the mind is often able to keep these addictions hidden, even from ourselves. Like, as long as we are getting a sufficient supply of the object of attachment and we're not experiencing any great conflict about it, then it's gonna remain outside of our awareness. Yeah. This does not, however, mean that our attention is free for other things, like that. Like, addiction and its associated mind tricks kidnap and distort our attention, which hinders our capacity for love, for love to be actualized, attention must be free. Yeah. So again, in the great, spiritual traditions of the world, attachments are seen as any concerns that take over our desire for love, or anything that becomes more important to us than God. From a religious standpoint, this distortion of attention could be called the distortion of ultimate concern. Yeah, another word being idolatry. Whether we are conscious of it or not, for however long a particular addiction controls our attention, it becomes a god for us. Yeah. No. And for me, like, this has definitely been the case. Like, I went through a lot of traumatic experiences as a child. Like, I experienced and witnessed pain on a scale that few could ever imagine. Okay, I witnessed a person begging for death due to excruciating pain. Like, no one can help, parents can't help, friends can't help, family can't help. You just got to like ride it out when it comes in. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure I had PTSD because even to this day I can't get those images out of my head, like that. Now, my doctor always told me to avoid stress because stress can lead me to a crisis and put me in hospital for weeks on end. Yeah. And if that happens, then my organs will get damaged. Do you understand? So it's always been my intention to avoid any type of stress. Anytime I felt stress, it was like a trigger that, I've got to relieve this stress in some shape or form, so in some way in it. And I remember the first time I stroked the shaft and nutted, there was this rush of dopamine that just floods your system, and my body just felt so relaxed. Do you understand? Like, I had to, creep downstairs and clean up, but then after I had to try it again, and again I was fascinated by it, innit? Just like the whole process. And yeah, curiosity got the best of me, innit? Now, I knew this is wrong because this is not something that you do in public. Do you understand? Like, you do it with the doors closed. Yeah, do you understand? You're not gonna sit there, jacking one off with your friends and that. Like, nah, you don't do that, innit? So just from that, I knew like something was wrong, innit? But the medics would say that masturbation is healthy. There's benefits to it, like reduction of stress, which was what I was after, and it can also prevent prostate cancer, like that. So that was my rationalization for still doing it. But eventually I got addicted to women and sex. Like, not only the feeling of nutting myself, but also pleasing a woman. Like, watching her body react and just go weak, yeah, was enough for me. Like, for that 20 minutes or an hour, your mind is just in a different space and you're not thinking about whatever negative emotion was on your mind preceding that. Yeah. So sometimes I didn't even need to nut. Like, I just felt good being able to please a woman, like that. Now, I didn't use corn because I couldn't get sex. Like, no, that's not the case. Like, I've always had women around me. I've always had access to women. Like, I've had women up north, down south, throughout the Midlands. Like, you don't really want to be dealing with women from your own city like that. Like, that's another, a conversation for a topic for another conversation. But yeah, I had women all over. Yeah. But I fell into corn heavy after I stepped out on my main girl. Like, I met this girl and she was absolutely fire. Yeah. Happened to be linking another girl from a city at the time. And when I was waiting on this girl, yeah, I just went into a few of the shops in the shopping centre and I met this girl in one of those shops. She was working there at the time. Like I said, absolutely fire. Easily a 9 in my eyes at least, yeah. Obviously, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I'm sure like many men would say she's at least an 8, like that, objectively, Yeah, she got body. Yeah, normally a woman has either back and no chest, or they have chest and no back. Like they have one or the other. They've got body and no face, or they've got face but no body. Yeah, this girl, she had it all. Do you understand? Like she had it all, and she was natural. You know, like that. Like no makeup, no foundation. You know, with natural hair too. So easily a 9. You know, like that. And we were talking for a couple of months. And one night she must have been out in my city, and we linked up after. Yeah, duties. We end up in a hotel now. One thing led to another, and one thing led to another, innit? And like I said, she was fire, innit? And literally, she was fire because man got clapped as well, innit? Like 2 weeks later, she told me she was pregnant, showed me the results, and instant block and delete. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this ever again. Like last time I saw her was at the train station. Do you know what I'm saying? After that day, she told me that she was pregnant. Last time I saw her was at the train station. Yeah. Now, I said, I'm not going to cheat on my girl ever again. Yeah. On top of that, I do believe in soul ties. Do you understand? And I don't want to be tied up with this girl and that girl. Do you know what I'm saying? That was my other rationalization for it. Yeah. Now, you may say, why corn? Many choose Henny, Cali, corn, or Coke to cope with difficult or negative emotions. In the short term, with alcohol, you can smell it on a person. With weed, not only can you smell it on a person, you can smell it in the room or in the area. You know what I'm saying? Like with Coke, you're just awake. Like people know when you're on something, like that. With heroin, you might see needle marks on your arms or whatever. Yeah. With corn, you get the relaxed feeling like weed, but without the smell. Yeah. Corn doesn't really leave evidence like that. Like you don't really get that with corn. But what corn does that's even worse is that it destroys your soul in it. So like every other sin that a man committeth is outside of the body, but a man that sins sexually sins against his own body. So you destroy what's supposed to be God's temple as well. Like, and only spiritual people can discern what's happening in it. Like they say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So like many people will avoid eye contact, or you'll feel uneasy looking at a person dead in the eye. Yeah. But then, because everyone's out here, having sex and that, half of them won't even notice. The majority of them won't even notice like that. Yeah. And the other thing with corn is that it's so easily accessible. Like you don't even need to leave your house. And with mobiles, you can access it whenever or wherever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like on top of that, it's free. Like that. There's a novelty. You can watch all sorts. Yeah. I'm not trying to promote it at all. I'm just saying why it's so appealing to many. Yeah. And because I was still able to function at, what I believe to be a relatively high level at the time. Like I was still passing college, still getting money, like still getting women. Do you know what I mean? It didn't register that this was actually destroying me. Yeah. And, change only happens when there's a sufficient need for change. And for me, I had to lose everything. Do you know what I mean? Like I had to hit rock bottom to become aware of it. Do you know what I'm saying? And a man without self-control is like a city with broken walls, like that. Like it's only a matter of time before you get invaded and everything you've accumulated or acquired is taken from you. Like you're always running that risk. And I think anyone that's been through addiction will tell you this. Like, you will end up losing everything or on the verge to lose everything before real change actually takes place, and you want to sort it out. Now, I could always tell when I wanted to be with a woman to genuinely be with a woman, or I wanted to be with a woman just to nut and relieve stress. And I can sense it when a woman wants to just relieve stress too, innit? Like usually the quickie is just because you want to relieve stress. Yeah. 99% of back shots are just stress relief. Yeah. And it's quite telling that a lot of women say back shots are their favorite position, by the way. Like, when you're in missionary or face to face, it's more intimate, like that. If you want to really imprint on someone, you do it face to face. Like I said, the eyes are the window to the soul, in it. So, and that's when a woman is at her most vulnerable. So you want to be looking a woman dead in her eyes. You understand? Like, it's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I'm getting a bit sidetracked here, but that's what it is, isn't it? Anyway, how addiction works. It's said that the attachment process occurs in 3 stages: learning, habit formation, and struggle. So, in the learning stage is characterized by associating a specific behavior with a feeling of pleasure or relief from pain. Yeah. So, let's say you engage in a behavior. It might be any behavior, intentional or unintentional. When you first perform the activity, you experience a feeling of pleasure or relief from distress. So, like, your brain automatically associates these effects with the behavior. Okay. If the pleasurable effect is immediate and powerful, your brain will make a strong association between the behavior and its effect in this single experience, and already will be pushing to repeat the behavior, right? If the feelings are weaker or less immediate, it may take many repeats of the behavior for your brain to solidify the association and start to request repeat performances, right? So either way, each time the behavior occurs, the association is reinforced, making you more likely to repeat it, yeah? Thus, certain attachments can develop almost instantaneously, while others may take a long time. Okay. In stage 2 habit formation, up until now, like through stage 1, the behavior and its effects have been associated only with each other. When the condition pattern becomes associated with other experiences in your life, you will become more active in repeating that behavior. A full-fledged habit then develops. Okay, so for example, you may be feeling a little depressed because of some disappointment in your life. Yeah, your brain will make the association that if you do this particular behavior, you will feel better. Okay, therefore, you will find yourself wanting to perform the behavior as a way of dealing with the depression. Okay, so now you not only repeat the behavior because of its own direct effects, but also actively seek it as a reaction to stress or discomfort in other areas of life. This is the primary effect of stage 2, and an increased frequency of behavior. Now, the second stage involves actively seeking the effects of the behavior. In most cases, you're going to be totally unaware that you are using the behavior in this way, yeah, until stage 3, when something prevents you from performing the behavior or when it starts to actually cause problems. Yeah. So stage 3, the struggle stage. By now, your associations have become so entrenched that the habit is an integral part of your life. Like, upon entering any upset or distress, your desire to do the behavior is like almost like a reflex reaction. Okay. And even in the absence of stress, you begin to feel uneasy if you go too long without repeating the behavior. Whether that behavior involves taking a chemical or, losing yourself in some pleasurable interpersonal experience, i.e., having sex, yeah, you now become dependent upon it, needing it and wanting more and more of it. Yeah, this is the beginning of tolerance. With this increasing need and frequency, something is bound to interfere with your habit sooner or later, right? Such interferences may occur in any number of ways. Yeah, regardless of how interferences arise, the behavior that you have become accustomed to is blocked and you react with distress. So essentially, the habit becomes its own source of stress. Additionally, the blocking of the behavior produces backlash feelings that are the opposite of those that first caused the conditioning. So, like, instead of feeling pleasure, you feel pain. And depending on the nature of the behavior, this distress and pain may range from a mild uneasiness to complete agony. Yeah, as I said at the beginning. Yeah. Either way, the circle of attachment is completed with withdrawal symptoms. Yeah. So interferences actually reinforce rather than lighten the attachment. First of all, since you have now learned to deal with stress by repeating the behavior, the stress of having your behavior interfered with only makes you want to perform the behavior more. If you become your own source of interference by trying to quit, you learn firsthand about mixed motivations, as your attempts to quit continually increase your desire to continue. Like, it's a fuck situation. Second, a habit is more strongly reinforced when the positive effects of the behavior occur intermittently than when they are constant. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why gambling and other behaviors that have intermittent and unpredictable payoffs are so addictive, in it. It's also why, attempts to moderate or cut down an addictive behavior usually fail abysmally. In the struggle to make gratification less constant, you actually reinforce your attachment. The only effective way of ending addictive behavior is to stop it completely. Like, anything less than that will almost surely aggravate the situation. Now, granted, it's a lot easier said than done. Like, all the pieces of the circle of attachment have reinforced the addictive behavior, making one repeat it. Do you understand? And with each repetition, the learning has become more deeply ingrained. And with a circle complete, addiction is born. Do you know, like that? Like, even when you consciously try to stop the behavior, your brain is unconsciously learning it better and seeking it more. Yeah, your motivations are truly mixed and you're fully at war with yourself. And Jesus even speaks on this, like, in Matthew, he says, now when the unclean spirit goes out of a man, it passes through waterless places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when it comes, it finds it unoccupied, swept, and put in order. Then it goes and takes along with it 7 other spirits, more wicked than the first, more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the last state of that man becomes worse than their first. Multi-system involvement, yeah. In prolonged addictions, what may initially have involved a rather simple change in a few million synapses has progressively expanded to affect like billions of cells in countless other functional systems. Yeah. One after another, each system has tried to defend against the initial imbalance, failed, and then adapted by establishing a new normality. Okay. In turn, it causes an imbalance in the next system and the process just goes on and on, right? So each of our major addictions consists not only of the primary attachment itself, it also includes the involvement of multiple other systems that have been affected by it. Yeah. So addictions are never single problems. Yeah. As soon as we try to break a real addiction, we discover that in many respects, it has become a way of life. Like, because of multi-system involvement, breaking an addiction usually requires changes in many different areas of life. Like, a person trying to quit smoking will find the struggle much greater after eating, after sex, or at other times that have become associated with smoking. An alcoholic is likely to fall off the wagon if they visit the same bar, as it is a coke addict who continues to associate with the same friends. For me, for instance, like with sex, if I'm in a relationship with a girl and I'm continually having sex, yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to break that addiction. Now, multi-system involvement is also responsible for temporary experiences of freedom when a person's environment changes. So, like a compulsive overeater, for example, yeah, will struggle in agony with this addiction to food while in their usual environment. Okay. But if they go on, a backpacking trip in the mountains or somewhere, like you may feel quite free of the addiction, innit? Because in the new environment, you're sufficiently removed from other stimuli that have become associated with that addiction, and you can more easily deal with the primary urge to eat. Yeah. You may even think you finally overcome the addiction, but that's only until, you return home to your usual surroundings and find all of the associations that trigger you again, like that. Like similarly, a coke addict may feel no great desire for drugs when they're hospitalized or in prison, only to re-experience the full power of their addiction upon return to real life. The longer an addiction continues, the more things will become associated with it and the more entrenched it will become. Like the longer it lasts, the more powerful it becomes, isn't it? Like you hear about addicts going in and out of rehab 4 or 5 times, 7 times, and more in some cases, like that. The brain never completely forgets what it has learned. Because of the deep and pervasive physical power of strong attachments, their potential exists in us forever. Do you know what I mean? Even after we have effectively broken the habit of acting upon them, it stands ready to come back with only the slightest bit of encouragement. The brain learns how to do its attachments far better than it learns how to, ride a bike or drive a car. And it remembers them more powerfully as well. Like years after a major addiction has been conquered, the smallest association, the tiniest taste, can fire up old cellular patterns once again. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the struggle with addiction. Like, so one aspect of addiction is permanent. We never completely overcome our attachments. Like, we may control our behavior in response to our addictions, and we may, with grace, be delivered from bondage to them. Then, as time passes, their pull becomes less intense, but throughout our lives, their potential for reactivation continues to exist within us. Like the brain doesn't forget, like that. Now, in terms of finding freedom, like I remember praying year after year, asking God to just free me from this addiction. Do you know what I'm saying? And sometimes I'll go 30 days, sometimes I'll go 90 days or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? But like addiction grows in the darkness. Like the truth will set you free. Do you understand? You have to shed light on it. Do you understand? And God is truth. Do you understand? God will set you free. Yeah. It's also important that you tell someone, like, regardless of how shameful you feel, your life is on the line. Like that. The word says, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. Do you understand? Like, there's some people that go for prayer and they don't want to say what the problem is that they're facing. Do you understand? So you're kind of praying blindly. Do you understand? Whereas, if you want targeted prayer for a specific situation, you have to tell the person, the priest, the pastor, a righteous person, yeah, who knows God, what the situation actually is, and they should have enough grace and understanding not to even judge you for it, like that. But you have to confess your sins. You have to say what the issue is, because then prayer is targeted and it can work more effectively. You understand? So it's very important. It's critical. And I remember one year trying to tell my girl at the time about it. Like, I had watched Kurt Franklin and Terry Crews speak on it, and how their women helped them through, their addiction. So I thought my girl could potentially help me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't really ask for help like that. So for me, it was, very serious, innit? But anyway, I told her, and she ended up laughing, innit? And thought I wasn't being serious. She thought I couldn't be serious about it. In reality, I was dead serious, yeah? But after that, I said, ban that, never doing that again. Like, I'll do it on my own. I'll find my own way through it. Now, as I said before, like, for me, I didn't see the negative effects of it. Like, I knew it was wrong, but there wasn't really any detrimental effects. Like I said, I was still performing. Yeah, I was still performing relatively well. Like that. Like, I was still getting money, still getting women. Yeah. Now, I actually cleared on my diary in 2019 to try and resolve this. Like, I was in a relationship at the time and was due to get married in 2020. And I didn't want to get married and still have this issue in it. Now, I was doing a full-time master's that year, but I stopped working full-time as well, just to give me like a bit of room to breathe. Only issue was, obviously, because I was still in this relationship, like, she still wanted to be active in it. Like, I told her I want to try and be celibate for a year, and I just, obviously I said, it's because we're getting married and I just want to do this, just to improve my self-control and discipline, yeah. I didn't tell her what the main reason was, or, that I was a sex addict like that, yeah. But, not even a couple of weeks went by, and like, she's cleaning the house in some maid outfit and fishnet tights. Like that. Like, who the hell cleans the house in fishnet tights? So, that's just gone out of the window. Like that. Like, this celibacy thing just went straight out the window. It just wasn't happening, innit? And for me, like, if one thing's off, then everything's off. Like, I guess you could call even that, like, rationalization, like that. But anyway, I cleared my diary again in 2021. Like, this time, I wasn't working at all. Like, wasn't studying. And, this year I'm doing so much research. Do you understand? Like, I didn't do that much research into it the last time. I just knew that it was something that I need to try and get control over. Do you understand? And it's something that I need to quit. Okay. But this year, I'm doing the research. I'm looking into it, looking into how to quit, looking into, withdrawal symptoms, all of that. Yeah. Because as I said, like, for change to happen, something needs to go seriously wrong in your life. And in 2021, I lost everything completely in it. So there was motivation there for me to now try and change. Yeah. And I'm very much an outcome focused individual. Do you know what I mean? Like, I watched video after video, read article after article, and, I experienced thoughts of checking out, because, I'm thinking I'm never going to be able to get free of this. Like, I'm reading articles online about, how it's a brain disease, and I was tweaking, yeah. Even if I go for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I realize I could very well fall back into it. Do you know what I mean? I'm seeing videos of celebrities that have battled addiction and they're not here anymore. Like that. They've checked out. So when events happen, like, for instance, Matthew Perry, losing his life, passing away, it does hit me because I've been through it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been through it, so it does hit, which is why, I'm recording this video, because you don't know what people are struggling with. Do you understand? Unless they say, yeah, for all the joy and laughter that they can bring into the world, like that. Like, some of them have deep issues that, they're trying to conquer and can't conquer, like that. In terms of finding freedom, everyone's different. Personally, I don't believe in counting streaks now. Like, I think that ultimately leads to failure. Like I said, I've done 30 days, I've done 90 days in the past, and had this false confidence, and the mind plays tricks on you. You reach a stage where you think you can handle it, and you let one off to celebrate or test yourself. You test your resistance. Next thing you know, you've binged 10 days worth of content, and you have to start all over again. Yeah. So for me, what I've found, like what's working for me, is to die daily. Do you understand? You have to die daily. Like, each day is a new day where you choose who you will serve. Yeah. I don't count days like that anymore. Like, you choose who you're going to give your attention to. And yes, there are a lot of individuals that may beat, certain addictions and not necessarily need God to do it. But a lot of the time, they've replaced that addiction with something else. Do you understand? Like, for me, in 2021, I replaced corn and sex, for instance, with gambling. Do you understand? I was trading stocks at the time. Yeah. I knew this is not going to work for me. Yeah. I'm just replacing one addiction for the next. Yeah. I'm just replacing one behavior for the next. Like, I wanted complete freedom. Yeah. And for me, it's like, my curiosity got me into this mess and got me into this shit. I'm certain my curiosity can also get me out of this. Do you understand? Like, I want to experience the Spirit of God at work in me. Do you know what I mean? I want to be able to tap into the Spirit. Yeah. And the earlier you can sort it out, the better, because when you have responsibilities, like when you have a job, when you even have children, it's extremely difficult. Yeah. As I said, the withdrawal symptoms are nasty. Yeah. I believe that I couldn't afford to be going through anxiety or depression. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got meetings, I need to function like that. Yeah. Now, there's also a system called the HALT system too. Yeah. Which stands for, it's an acronym for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Okay. These are the conditions when you're tempted, when your willpower is at its lowest, and when the enemy will try to break you. Like, it's a vicious cycle and hard to break. If you're not aware of the withdrawal symptoms of being hungry, angry, or tired, you're likely to relapse. Do you understand? Especially this hungry and tired cycle. Like that. Like, I've spoken on anger a bit in the past, yeah. And for me, that was definitely one thing that held me back, because, I did have anger problems. Yeah, I have had anger problems in the past. So it's like, anytime I felt angry, relieve that stress, boom, release. Like that. Yeah. But freedom doesn't come instantly or overnight. For many people, yeah, it can take you months and even years before you finally start recovering. Yeah. Before you finally get free. Do you understand? Like, don't give up. All I can say is, don't give up. Don't stop fighting. Freedom is available. Freedom is there. And for me, what I found the best way to freedom is through God, through Christ. Okay. Now, speaking spiritually, there's a reason why corn is free. Yeah. It's one of the enemy's greatest tools to enslave and destroy men and to separate them from God. Do you understand? Like, think of any other drug or substance there is in the world. Like, you have to pay for it. Like that. The first time you might get it free, but the second time, third, fourth, you gotta pay. Like that. And this is the ultimate goal of the enemy, to destroy men. Like that. And because sex, let's say, is considered a basic desire or necessity, even though it's not. Like, you're not gonna die from not having sex, but it's considered by many to be a basic necessity. Corn is one of the greatest tools the enemy has to enslave you, and even sex as well. But anyway, I've spoken a lot. Like, this is probably running over into above 30 minutes now. Like, I think I've touched on a lot of things. Obviously, if you want, more detail on anything that I've spoken about in this video, then, please let me know and I'll try my best. Or if you're even looking for, support or an accountability partner, or, someone just to even pray with you, like, you can feel free to reach out to me. Do you know what I mean? Feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, man's been through it. And maybe I went through it in order to be able to help you or other people who are going through it. Like that. So yeah, like, this is one of the hardest videos I've ever had to record, because I thought, I would take some of the things that I've said in this video to the grave with me, like that. Like, I would never talk about this, but I've just been led to speak on it because, I've been through it. And, the way that you find freedom is through speaking about it. Do you understand? And bringing these things into the light. So, yeah. And if it can help someone, then, then that's great. Yeah. But that's the video for today. Thank you if you've made it all the way through to the end. Yeah, Pal Colin. In the next video, I'll probably be speaking on the 4 emotions that can control the heart. Anger, guilt, envy. I think, is it jealousy or greed? One of them. yeah, one of them. But yeah, until next time, Pal Colin. Stay blessed.